Everyone wants to be a people magnet, the person in the center of the room that everybody wants to talk to. Unfortunately, most people try to become this person the complete wrong way. Hi, my name is Dylan Garrity. I'm an English communication coach. I help international entrepreneurs communicate, connect, and lead in English. And in this video, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to become the person at a gathering or an event that other people want to connect with. None of the skills that I'm going to talk about today require that you have a very high language level. I've been able to use these skills in languages I don't speak well at all. All they require is a little bit of empathy and a willingness to care about other people. But before I talk about those skills, we need to talk about the big myth that's probably keeping you from being a people magnet. So I knew this guy named Gary. Gary was tall, handsome, intelligent, and funny. Gary had lived all over the world, he'd sailed on a ship, traveled across Mexico on a motorcycle he built himself, and had worked as a bouncer in Africa. Gary was also an amazing chef, a decent storyteller, and loved philosophy. At the beginning of every barbecue or party, everyone wanted to talk to Gary. However, after about 30 minutes, Gary was almost always alone or talking to one or two people, and everyone else was avoiding him. Why is this? Why would it be that an intelligent, attractive, funny guy would be unable to get other people to want to talk to him? Most people think that if you do interesting stuff or know interesting things, other people want to be around you. Believing this puts you into one of two traps. You feel like you're not Gary, so you just don't try to socialize, or you eventually become Gary and realize that doesn't make people like you. Being a people magnet isn't about being the coolest person in the room. It's about how you treat other people. You'd probably love to be friends with Dwayne Johnson. However, if he treated you like crap, you'd probably start avoiding him. This was Gary's problem. Gary was entertaining, but after you talked with him for a few minutes, you realized he only could talk about himself. If he wasn't the center of attention, he got bored. People magnets aren't superstars. They're the ones who create an environment where everyone else feels like stars. They create environments where everyone feels welcomed, valued, and respected. The question is, how do you make those welcome environments? Creating welcoming environments takes a lot of work. You don't become that person without practice, and no one is born with those skills. You develop them. If you want to be a people magnet, there are 3 abilities you have to develop. First, you have to create energy in the room. In social settings, most people are focused on protecting themselves. They put out 0 energy so they don't look different or weird. This is your opportunity. Because most people don't put out any energy at all, if you put out just 10%, you will glow in the room, and other people will be drawn to you. Let me show you what I mean. Feel the difference when I ask you a standard question different ways. First, the regular way. Hey, so what do you do? This level of energy feels flat. You don't feel like the other person cares about you. 10% more is just a little bit extra. So, what do you do? Just that little shift in energy creates an environment that people want to be part of. You are communicating that you're happy to talk to the person and want to hear what they have to say. So, step 2, change your focus. The biggest step that helped me become better at socializing was changing my focus. I stopped thinking how I could be interesting, how I could be Gary, and instead focused on how I could find out interesting things about other people. This changes how you think about conversations. Questions like, what do you do? Where are you from? Have you been to one of these events before? Are no longer enough. People ask these questions to start safe conversations where no one has to be vulnerable. We have all had these conversations a million times and we're bored of them. If your goal is to find interesting things about another person, you must ask questions that reveal interesting information about them. I will do a much more in-depth video about how to ask good conversation questions, but for now I'm going to give you one technique that I use regularly. First, ask an easy question that everybody expects. That way people feel comfortable, they know what conversation's coming. Then, switch it up by asking a much deeper question about their answer. The formula goes like this. With 10% more energy, ask a standard question like, what do you do? After the person responds, you need a second or two to think of a deeper question. To give yourself that time, I usually say a phrase like, oh, interesting. Okay, I have a question for you. When you ask a deeper question, it has to have two criteria. First, it must be about their initial answer. And second, it must be a question that will actually be interesting for you. Otherwise, you'll be bored in the conversation and the other person will feel it. Let me show you how I use this in practice. This is from a conversation I had a few months ago. Hey, what do you do? Oh, I'm a hairdresser. Okay, interesting. All right, I have a question for you. In this conversation, I was a little stuck because I really don't care about hairstyles. However, I'm very interested in helping customers make better decisions. So I asked, what do you do when a customer comes to you and they want a haircut that you know will look bad on them? Oh, interesting question. Usually what I do is try to give them a version of the haircut they want that will actually work with their face and bone structure. That hairdresser and I ended up having a really interesting conversation about how to help customers make better choices. Here's the cool thing about asking deeper questions. Questions that are interesting to you are also interesting to other people. If you ask deeper questions at a networking event or a social gathering, you will pull other people into the conversation. You ask a deeper question. This catches people's attention. Then the person you're talking to has to give an interesting answer, which means other people will listen to them. This makes the person talking feel interesting, which will make them happy and appreciative of you. Other people around you will want to talk about the topic, and they'll want you to ask them interesting questions too, which means that they will start to be part of the conversation, which means a group will start to form. Once a group starts to form, then your goal shifts a little bit. Once you have 4 or 5 people around you, your goal needs to switch from having conversations with one person to having conversations with the group. Usually, once there are 4 or 5 people, everybody will be having conversations, but the conversations will be a little bit slow and stilted. Everyone is happy to be part of an interesting group, but they're not comfortable enough to start conversations on their own. Often conversations die and awkward silences start. You need to be asking questions that will make everybody interested again and make them want to be part of the conversation. Here are the rules to good conversation questions. Number 1, they're open-ended. These are questions with no right answer. A closed question might be, what was Taylor Swift's last album? This kind of question has a right and a wrong answer, and if somebody answers it correctly, you still have to create a new conversation. What do you think of Taylor Swift's music is open-ended. There's lots of ways that conversation could go. Number 2, the conversation questions must relate to everyone. This means it has to be about a topic that everyone can have an opinion on without too much explanation. What do you think of sheep farming is a isolated, closed topic that most people won't be able to participate in. Do you have a favorite kind of dog is a very relatable question that everybody can participate in. The third rule is the question should discuss something at least a little important. Questions like, do you have a favorite dog? And what is your favorite kind of pizza are a little boring unless the group is really shy. The answers don't have any significance in people's lives. A conversation that's a little bit more important might be, do we actually need to be passionate about our jobs? An even more high stakes or important question might be, how is AI going to affect your industry in the future? You want to be careful about how important the questions you ask are. If everybody is very new and uncomfortable, asking a deep and personal question might make everybody shut down. However, if the group is engaged and interested, asking a deeper question will make them really perk up and pay attention. You have to judge by how comfortable everybody feels and how open to new ideas the group is. The fourth rule is that there should always be context for the question. If you just jump in with an intense, high-stakes topic, people will probably shut down. The question either needs to be connected to what everybody's already talking about, or you need to provide context as to why you asked that question. For example, if everybody is talking about AI, you can ask, how do you think AI will affect your industry in the future? However, if you have a question that you want to talk about, but it doesn't relate to the conversation around you, you have to give a little context so that everybody understands why you're asking the question. When I want to create context, I usually say 1 or 2 experiences about my own life, which is why I have the question. For example, I'm having a weird experience. I started using ChatGPT to help me write a few weeks ago. but I stopped using it almost immediately. I felt like if I kept using ChatGPT, my writing skills would die. Are you guys using ChatGPT, and is it like affecting your skills at all? Do you think it's gonna affect how we develop abilities in the future? What do you guys think? Once there's the context, the question makes a lot more sense. Here's the thing, most people don't know what to do with long pauses in conversation. They just wait awkwardly for someone else to say something. When you introduce an interesting topic, you make the entire group feel more connected to each other. Now, you may have noticed that in this video, I didn't include a couple things. For example, I told you how to ask questions, but I didn't tell you how to answer them. I also didn't mention how to keep a conversation going, or how to answer questions so that people see you as interesting as well. If you want answers to these questions so that you can have great conversations in English, check out the next video.